Hi everyone, it's February 23, 2022, and you're watching Awesome10X Philippine Market Update. So let's begin. Okay, so for the Philippine markets, we are relatively unscathed. I was saying that the Philippine markets was very resilient in the face of the Ukraine, the Russian crisis. And I think it has to do more with the fact that the Philippines is very much happy for this reopening, and what we are seeing in the market is actually a very strong performance on reopening names. We are seeing strength on the fact of Bloomberry rising now to about $7, 7 peso 38 cents. Actually, we were bullish on Bloomberry. Prior to this week's stream, we were buying here at about 620 to 650 until 680. So this was our buy date. It was about February 17th. That was last week. Yeah, so and holding on to this Bloomberry move, we bought the day after the Airbnb earnings actually. So the Airbnb earnings in the US actually was a catalyst, seeing that the entire world was very much strongly buying all reopening cyclical value stocks. So Bloomberry as a casino was a bet. We are bullish there, and until now we're still bullish. We look to see that Bloomberry can hit the first resistance at 8 and then 850 and then 9. So still holding on with the 7 peso mark now being a new support for Bloomberry. Now, Cebu Pacific, actually, I purchased most stocks on that day, February 17. So on February 17, 16, 16, sorry, I bought this day when it was about 45.25. So that was this day. So I bought that day and still holding on to our Cebu Pacific. So we were bullish about the reopening, and we are seeing this happen all throughout the world. So despite the Ukraine and Russian crisis, we've been seeing the resiliency of the Philippine market. And so we just held on and stuck with our longs. Actually, the low volatility in the Philippines has been beneficial for a lot of investors and traders in the Philippine market. You could see that it was fairly how should I say this? It was fairly calm. It was fairly calm despite all the volatility happening all throughout the world, especially in the US, where things are crashing 10 to 20% within a week. So sometimes in a single day. Cebu Pacific is still strong, albeit there might be resistance here at about 49.85. So first, JG Summit, we made a buy call as well, given that this reopening will benefit JG Summit, who owns Cebu Pacific and Robinson's Retail. JG Summit is improving, now trading at 64 to 66. Past few days, we have been seeing the market actually trade mostly on catalysts of this FTSE related action. We've seen actually SM gap down 5% that day, 927 to 850. Unfortunately, I did not buy SM investments that day, although I would think that the rally to about 930 is going to be restrained, as the market would still see that as a resistance. So I didn't buy this catalyst, wherein SM actually got deleted from your FTSE. Dito actually got entered into your FTSE. So Dito CME actually here on that day of announcement went from about 580 to 7. So I didn't trade any of that. Most of my trades are just reopening stocks. Been bullish on GTCAP at about 550, 530 actually since here. And then on February 17, I still bought here at about 570. So actually 570, it's just 580 now. So just holding on to it. As I see a lot of underappreciation for GD Capital, we could see it rally to about 620 to 665. Not so much of a big upside, but I think it's an upside nonetheless, plus a very small risk at about 530. Amongst the low risk items, I've been looking at MPI as well, given that Meralco has been strongly trading at 365, and I see MPI's business is also stable. So we are seeing actually a potential run up here. If you want to buy MPI here about 360 to 380, looks like a lot of buybacks, right? So we've got a lot of supports here at about 360, 370. And actually, I'm seeing consumer staples go down massively recently. Pure gold is getting a drop here about 35 area. I'm buying here at these levels, 35.35 today. Looking to buy that. And I've been buying some RHI. So I've been buying some retail. I know that a lot of people are scared of the retail spending, given that the lack of jobs, the lack of inflation and all that. It's gonna get hit for the consumer spending. But I surmise, Robinson's Retail has a very good price here, about 58 and 48, that I'm willing to actually be a contrarian and buy these staples, despite the fact that consumer spending might be unhealthy, not as healthy as before due to the fact that we're still recovering from the pandemic. So it's going to be a slow recovery for retail outlets, but it is a recovery nonetheless, in my view. So actually buying the likes of Cebu Pacific, buying the likes of Macro Asia. So Macro Asia I also bought at about 5.6, 5.65. So I've been buying here at these levels, 565 actually there. So for the past few weeks, since 517, I've been buying. So yeah, right now Macro Asia is breaking above. It's now trading at 615. I think that you've got initial resistance here about 6.6, right? 6.6. But eventually, because I believe that the market will really appreciate reopening stocks as it has done for America, for most of the Airbnbs, Expedias, Booking. So I see that Macro Asia is going to go back to about $8, 8 peso, or at least 8 to 10 peso. So I'm buying this, thinking that Max said these are the bottoms. So I'm loading on I've loaded up on what you'd argue as consumer discretionary. So I have opposite poles: consumer discretionary spending and consumer staple. When I say consumer discretionary, obviously you don't travel out of a whim. It is a discretionary spend. It is not a necessary thing. However, being stuck 2 years in the pandemic, I surmise that people would spend, and the first thing they'll spend upon after pandemic is over is really Cebu Pacific, and it would really benefit Cebu Air. So that is really our topic. And we know that tourists often flock in the Philippines, and when they flock into the Philippines, it should bode well for Bloomberry. So been seeing that bullish take here, actually that strong volume around 650 here, 650 here. So here, that strong volume really was the impetus for me to be entering somewhere here about Feb 15, Feb 14, Feb 17. So those days, I've been buying those levels. So even at 620, 650, 680, 670. So all those drops, we've been just buying and loading up on Bloomberry. We, as in just Awesome 10X members. So Awesome 10X and yeah, me, I've been buying as well. So we've been buying this one. So let's take a look at some consumer staples. Consumer staples that I'm still oh wait. So yeah, actually I've been also buying Shakey's Pizza here at about 850 levels. So I think that these levels are actually good. I've been buying since 870. So even in 850, I'm also buying. I see that as a channel uptrend. So as I see the market going to reopening stocks eventually for the next foreseeable year, 2023 is going to be a great resumption. A lot of millennials are already asking for the region to be under alert level 1. So I just got married around Feb 13, and happy to say that the restaurants, the banquets are happening yet again. It was at level 2 when we did it. So here we can see that it could bounce from about 8 areas to about 920, 910, 9 to 10 to 12. Will Shakey's and Potato Corner be able to turn the ship around? I'd say it's going to take about a year or 2 years. Actually, wait for about 2023 for it to recover all the way prior to the pandemic, this was the pandemic highs. About pandemic time, it was still about 10, no? 10, 11. So yeah, I'd say that there will be a reason for 850 Shakey's Pizza to rebound as restaurants as a whole recover. Actually, Jollibee has been doing a lot of strength on recovery. This one has been the strongest mover when it comes to the reopening recovery. The biggest problem now on Jollibee is whether the acquisitions are already earnings accretive. So you should note that Jollibee could actually, in my view, this could be a peak already at 250 peso. Actually, I am not a buyer here. I think this is more of a resistance area. Even if it rallies to about 280, it still will be a resistance. Simply because it has been very strong. Nonetheless, I don't see a strong reason to sell your Jollibee. I mean, it will get a lot of buyers here at about 180 to 200. So whether you sold or whether you are looking to buy, I think Jollibee is more of a trading range. So I'm more of a neutral here. So likely to be just here moving like that for the next couple of months. And the reason being, of course, Jollibee has been in acquisition mode. So let's go for Jollibee's acquisitions. You could see that under the Edge, edge.com, they've shared that they bought, Jollibee just simply bought a milk tea shop, and it's integrated to their Chowking. Let's go through the company disclosures here, press releases, update, and material information. Okay, let's go for that. Okay, so that was this financial statements, press releases. Okay, operating profit of Jollibee reaches the 2019 pre-pandemic level, driven by the Philippines, North America, Smash Burger, and even Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf. So let's go through these, download those press releases. Let's just read through the press release of Jollibee to see how the restaurants overall are recovering in this COVID pandemic. Okay, so let's read through the ones prepared. Okay, so Jollibee has recovered. You can see that the sales have grown from 50 billion to about 62 billion. And that's for the quarter. And then for the year to date, they've been recovering 20% as well, from 175 billion of sales to about 211 billion. Your revenues is 153. Your operating income is about 6.3 billion. So they've reversed from a loss of 12B to a positive income. That's good to see. And their EBITDA has also gone from 4.8 billion to 23 billion, showing signs of recovery for Jollibee. So earnings has grown back. You can see that one of Asia's largest food and service companies declared that their income has now reached 2.5 billion, reversing the losses for the fourth quarter of 2020, generating a growth from their fourth quarter 2019 operating profit of 1.5 billion. So this operating pandemic is now the same income from the 2019, which is pre-pandemic levels. System-wide sales of all their company-owned and franchise stores grew massively, 25%. That is huge. And for the year, it was also a strong recovery to about 20%. Same-store sales of all the Philippine businesses increased by 24%. That's a good thing. North America increased by 17%, Europe 5%, Coffee Bean was 30% up. Superfoods China businesses declined by 23 and 8%. So Superfoods is the Vietnam, the Pho, and a little bit on, so mostly Vietnamese. And then COVID-19 related restrictions were still imposed in Vietnam and China, which resulted to that decline. Nonetheless, global same-store sales rose by 18%. So that's a very strong recovery. System-wide sales had equaled the sales in the same period before the outbreak of the pandemic. We are still 20% lower in the Philippines than those in 2019. However, despite this, we've already equaled those in 2019. With an increased consumer spending during election year, Jollibee has allotted 9 billion pesos for CAPEX for new stores in 2022, representing an increase compared with 6 billion pesos spent in 2021. We believe that as the economy fully reopens, sales growth remains strong. So basically, I think that Jollibee is, of course, being pegged as a reopening play, and it is a correct reopening play. The big swings from Jollibee would come from inflationary pressures and generally how fast consumer spending will grow. So if you think that consumer spending is not going to grow another 25% next year, then you would assume that Jolly will just trade within a range. However, if you believe otherwise, that we will go back and we will be stronger than ever, then it will still be strong. Nonetheless, I'd say this 260 to 320 mark is, of course, a resistance. So you have to be aware of these resistances. And these are still there. So those are 2018 and 2019 resistances. I'd say that the double top could happen somewhere here. So be aware of Jollibee's potential tops here. Nonetheless, a very strong recovery of their sales means that there will be a lot of buyers on any dips near $200 pesos, sorry. So it's going to be a trading range. It's a neutral for Jollibee. What I wanted to share actually was the Milkshake. Let's take a look at the material transactions as of today. So update, Jollibee is now 51% owner of Milkshake International. So this is a milk tea shop. So we know that Filipinos love milk tea, as evidenced with all the milk tea shops in the Philippines, from the Yifang to the Serenities to all the milk tea places in the Philippines, Coco, right? So let's take a look at these. Jollibee acquired a majority stake in a popular Taiwanese bubble tea company and is eyeing a fast global expansion. So they are now 51% owner on Milkshop, which owns Milksha. They've paid for approximately $12.8 million, or about 600 plus million peso, 650 million peso. And they say that this is founded in Tainan City in Taiwan. And the bubble tea is free from chemical additives. They have already over 250 outlets, 231 in Taiwan and Hong Kong, 231 in Taiwan, 4 in Hong Kong, 2 in Melbourne, 2 in Vancouver. Singapore, you've got 12. The system-wide sales is $66 million, which prompted them to pay actually a very cheap PE ratio. Because if your sales is 66 million, I would assume that this Milksha would have at least I'm not sure if they would earn something like 20% on that, which means that the company Jollibee purchased half of the business for just two times multiple, right? Because if you're paying example, if this business is earning something like $12 million and you have 50% stake on the company and you just paid $12 million here, so it's actually a very cheap acquisition in my view for Jollibee. The news is very positive, guys. It says here Milk Shop is generating modest net income and positive EBITDA. I don't know about you, but I believe that milk tea is a very high margin business, as much as 20%. So that would go the same for Serenity, Black Scoop, all of these tea shops in the Philippines. So here it's a good acquisition if you ask me, and it's very synergistic to Milkshop products will now soon be sold in Chowking stores. I've seen some of the bloggers talk about this. So let me show to you the Google Milksha Chowking branches. So let's try this out. Milksha will soon be made available in Chowking stores in SM Mega Mall. There's also in Unciano Center, Marcus Highway. So there's a few, right? So we can now offer and avail of the Taiwan milk tea in the Philippines. So here, Chowking milk tea. So freshness and indulgence from Taiwan. Founded by Peter Huang, Milksha is driven by its mission to offer fresh, natural, and handmade beverages. Okay, so this is of course just the same as all our milk tea, right? So, and Filipinos love milk tea. So I think like it's a worldwide sensation, and it's not a trend that will end. It's just a matter of competition, and you know that there's a lot of competition. Nonetheless, if they're hitting 70 million sales, $17 million of sales, that's and it's synergistic, right? So ito, Chowking, la la la. I've seen Jollibee buys 51% of Milksha, takes a stake in a milk shop. Mm-mm. I think it's a good thing for this milk shop. Even Chinese are discussing about this. Kofu Group, November. Let's read this, the Chinese version. Then let's just read the translation, English. Okay, so fast food and precious milk set off a dazzling win. Philippine fast food buys 51% stake in Mikosha for 350 million yuan. So 350 million. So yun nga, diba? $12 million, $13 million. That's about 650 million pesos, no? Yeah. Here. So Ernesto Tanmantiong said that he hoped to enter the international territory. They reported, yeah. So, well, we have yet to see how much Chowking's sales would really benefit from this, but I believe the market is very bullish on these acquisitions of Jollibee. So I think that is a positive thing. Maganda yung mga bloggers na nag-discuss about this, the food bloggers. Milksha, Chowking. Kita ko na siya eh. Ito, this one, no? May free delivery rin pala. So maybe I can just have it delivered. Total milk tea naman. Paminsan-minsan, mag-milk tea nga tayo. Chowking now offers Milksha Taiwan milk tea. So it's synergistic kasi basically, either you're buying milk tea and then order ka ng siopaw, siomai, or merienda mo, diba? So I think it's a reason for people to go to Chowking more on afternoons or kahit magpa-deliver. So that's a good thing. To, Chowking milk siya. Check natin. Let's try it out. I've never tried it yet. So it's for delivery. Nakasulat sa Grab Food. Free delivery. 200 pesos minimum purchase via Food Panda. Tikman natin. Taiwan's best milk tea brand. Yan. Nasa Chowking siya, no? You can see it in Chowking branches. Not yet in all, pero... Chowking has 5 new milk tea drinks on the menu. Ito yun. Try natin. So you now have the Honey Pearl Black Tea Latte with pudding, Valrhona Cocoa Milk, Signature Taro Milk, and Winter Melon Tea. So yun, we can clearly see that the Philippines is very resilient. I don't know if it has to do with just the fact that there's a small market value. So baka wala rin kasing foreigners, it's just Filipinos. But you could see this, no? Foreign net selling is very minimal, 18 million. So it's possible that the Philippines is very strong simply because locals, diba? Locals dominated the round and the locals are all mostly buy and hold. So the retail are not really selling. The losers are, etong URC and Pure Gold na sell-off. I think that is a buying area because URC at these levels, profitable siya. So consumer staples like this, 120 pesos for URC, looks like a buying area for me. This is a support area. Kahit mag 110 yan, where I'm willing to buy some URCs a little bit, no? So it's trading something like less than 20 times multiple, and that's, I'm not expecting that it goes 200. Dito lang, still the largest food and beverage company in Asia, food and beverage manufacturing company, one of the largest, not the largest, in ASEAN. So URC is still okay for me. Pure Gold looks okay. So actually, medyo cheap yung mga consumer staples ng Philippines, no? So versus say the Walmarts of the world. So I'm still willing to buy these. Ano pang discussion sa index? Sige. Index-wise, index movers. So GG Summit, I think it has to do with reopening. Convergent Globe, I think it's more of steady. High growth si Converge, so it just got down because of the valuations. Wilcon was very expensive as well. So Converge and Wilcon were just expensive valuation, high growth names that had to be pulled back. Just like Asen, it had to pull back at some point, kaya bagsak siya. Index movers, halos unchanged, no? Not a big move. Actually, that's what's great in the Philippines, if you ask me. It's not moving much. Kaya madali to find what are the outperformers. And sige, if you just go to the analytics, obviously you can clearly see the nickels are very, very strong, right? For the year. If you just look at the percentage changes, it's one of the strongest, no, for the year to date. So year to date, look at that. SPNEC, ATN, but the rest, no, para Mark, Nickel. So ATN and SPNEC had to do with mga solar plays, mga speculative names like that. And Nicolasia and Mark and FNI were actually mostly moving up because of, in general, commodity prices were on a higher move. And coal was also strong. You can see Semerara, DMC, yon, and because of their dividends. Bloomberry is a recent performer. Ito, Bloomberry up 18%, GG Summit up 20%. So dumarating yung mga outperformers nowadays on the reopening stocks, I think. So yan, mga GTCAP, babalik din yan sa mga 650. If you're gonna ask me, my picks are quite the reopening. So we own some SEB, we own some MAC, we own some Bloomberry, Seb Mac Bloom, JG Summit. Yeah, we got that. Shakey's Pizza, I entered. I think it's cheap here. I'm more of the Shakey's Pizza Potato Corner Tandem. Jollibee's a little bit expensive. I would have bought that. Max's, I think it's got to be a wait and see. I think it's going to be a good entry as well. In fairness, I'm bullish on restaurants after seeing how they were able to pass on inflation. So I was pretty impressed with Chipotle's ability and Starbucks' ability to really give the inflationary pressures back to the consumers as a company. So we have yet to see whether our Philippine counterparts can do the same, if they can pass it on. But if they can, that would be bullish, potentially bullish for the restaurants as a reopening play. So in a way, I'm also taking a look whether the other retailers like Frutas, SSI, I know they aren't moving, but I'm just on the watch list there. So far, I haven't touched that. I've done only a majority of my top pick is really airlines, because you're seeing the airlines really as a whole dominate the headlines. So I said I bought it on Airbnb. No, ito Feb 17. This was about Feb 14, and been buying Airbnbs. So it's really a travel play for me. And I've been seeing the same thing for the entire airlines. So US Global Jets ETF, if you'll notice, you have this bullish move, right? So yun. Okay, guys, I have to go. I hope that you learned something, and see you again next week. Hi, Nikki. It's been a long time. Yeah, I was a bit. I've been missing in action on the YouTube because I was preparing for wedding and those stuffs. Ayun. But either way, so yeah, I'm married na. So I'm Mrs. Helio now. Um, you can, you can just in the US I'm short. Like we're short. It's market in the US is very volatile. But in the Philippines it's initially I went to cash nga eh. And then just recently, like last week lang ako nag-bull because of the bullish movements on all reopening plays. So but I'm actually two up, dalawang opposite poles. I'm bullish on consumer staples, which is a very safe play. And you know that I'm bullish on dividend names. That's why we entered yung mga Nicolasia, yung mga yon. Actually, I was early selling nga sa nickel eh. So, mali. Either way, congrats to those who still held on their nickel. I guess you're just trailing your nickel gains, by the way. And DMC is not doing as well, but I think DMC will get bought because of the dividends. No? So, ay, andyan lang naman si DMCI. Very strong pa rin. On dips though, may buyer yan sa dips pag mga bumagsak yan ng 770. Pwede yan, hintay lang sa mga konting drops. Puro dividends yung market ng Philippines, no? That's what I've noticed. So, hintay ka dito sa mga 770 for DMC if you don't have. Ang daming okay Pure Gold and URC are good bets for me. And the reopening picks. So, if ever, pag mabili mo si GTCAP below 580, if you want to buy for the Mega Worlds, I know that they're trying to buy back the shares. But so far, hindi pa ako ganun ka-bullish on the property segment. So I'm not bullish on Mega World as of yet. I'm more on the JG Summits, on the medyo parang go kong way nga yung portfolio ko eh. Kasi Cebu Pacific, JG Summit, URC, RRHI, di ba? Yeah, medyo parang binili ko lahat except si Robinson's Land. So medyo goks nga ako. RCR is yung mga REITs pinatulan ng lahat, no? All the REITs have been doing well. Yeah. So actually in the Philippines, parang yung mga REITs have been really entered by everyone. Okay, so see you guys. Let's see you again next week. And thank you for liking, subscribing, and watching the Philippine Market Updates. See you again every Wednesday, Philippines. I think yun lang naman yung news.